Jake Thompson sat in the uncomfortable metal chair and tried not to show his anger. Around the huge round table, alien faces stared at him with expressions that ranged from boredom to open dislike. The meeting room on Nexus Prime was built to impress visitors with its gleaming walls and floating lights, but Jake felt like he was sitting in a courtroom where the judge had already decided he was guilty. 3 months. 3 whole months he had been coming to these meetings, and every single day felt like a waste of time. The aliens talked about humans like they were children who needed to be taught how to behave. They used words like young race and newcomers, as if being newer to space travel made humans somehow stupid or worthless. The worst part was how they acted like humans were not even in the room. Right now, the tall lizard-looking chairman was talking to the bug-like delegate about how much space humans should be allowed to use for their ships. They were deciding humanity's future without asking what humans actually wanted. Captain Lisa. Martinez sat next to Jake, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Jake could see the muscles in her jaw working as she ground her teeth together. Lisa had been a soldier for 15 years and was used to straight talk and honest dealing. These aliens with their fancy words and hidden meanings drove her crazy. Third member of their team was Lieutenant Ben Harris. Barely 25 years old, but sharp as a knife when it came to reading people. Ben was taking notes on his tablet, but Jake knew he was really studying the aliens, learning their habits and weaknesses. Good. Someone should be getting something useful out of these pointless meetings. The chrome-colored alien from the crystalline Empire made a sound like breaking glass, which Jake had learned meant laughter. The humans want mining rights to the Kepler belt asteroids, it said in its weird musical voice. Perhaps we should give them the rocks that are already empty. It would be good practice for them. More laughter filled the room. Jake felt his face get hot, but he kept his expression calm. These asteroids they were talking about had been stripped of everything valuable decades ago. The aliens were offering humans the leftovers and acting like it was a generous gift. The insect delegate clicked its mandibles together. We must also discuss their travel restrictions. Human ships are quite primitive. They should not be allowed to travel without proper supervision. We cannot have them getting lost or causing accidents in civilized space. Jake had seen the files on human ships. They were not primitive at all. In fact, human engineers had solved several problems that still gave alien shipbuilders trouble, but the aliens had made up their minds before the first meeting ever started. They saw what they wanted to see. The worst of them all was Counselor Vexthan from the Hegemony. He looked almost human, except for his gray skin and the way his eyes glowed with a cold blue light. He had a habit of smiling that never reached those glowing eyes, and he talked about humans the way someone might talk about pets. The human home system is quite beautiful, Vexathon said now, his voice smooth as silk. All those blue oceans and green continents. It would make an excellent nature preserve once we establish proper oversight. We could set up viewing stations for tourists. The humans could serve as guides, showing visitors how their primitive society functions. The room fell silent. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. They were talking about turning Earth into a zoo. They wanted to put humans on display like animals in cages. Lisa's chair creaked as she leaned forward. Jake put a hand on her arm, feeling the tension in her muscles. Ben had stopped pretending to take notes and was staring at Vexthon with naked hatred. You want to turn our homeworld into a tourist attraction? Jake said quietly. His voice carried clearly in the silent room. Vexthon's smile got wider. Not a tourist attraction, a cultural preserve. We would take very good care of your people, I assure you. They would be safe and comfortable under proper management. The lizard chairman made a rumbling sound that Jake had learned was their version of laughter. The humans should be grateful for such an opportunity. Not many young races get the chance to contribute to galactic education in such a meaningful way. Jake looked around the table at all the alien faces. Some were amused, others bored. A few looked annoyed that the meeting was taking so long. None of them looked like they understood they were talking about enslaving an entire species. He had known this moment would come eventually. For 3 months he had hoped that patience and careful negotiation would eventually lead to a fair deal. He had believed that if he could just make the aliens understand that humans were reasonable people who wanted to trade and cooperate, they would treat humanity with respect. He had been wrong. Jake stood up slowly, his chair sliding back with a soft scraping sound. Every alien eye in the room focused on him. The room was so quiet he could hear the hum of the air recycling system. "Captain Martinez, Lieutenant Harris," he said in a calm, clear voice. "Please gather our materials, we are leaving." Lisa was already on her feet, stuffing papers into her briefcase with quick, angry movements. Ben closed his tablet and stood, as well, his young face set in hard lines. The lizard chairman tilted his massive head to one side. "Leaving? But we have not finished discussing the terms of your integration into galactic society." Jake picked up his own briefcase and looked around the table one more time. "There will be no integration. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from these negotiations. We will find our own path among the stars." For a moment, the only sound was the whisper of the air recycling system. Then Vexthon began to laugh, a sound like breaking bells. "A tantrum? How very human." Other aliens joined in the laughter. The insect delegate made its clicking sound of amusement. Even some of the quieter species were making their own versions of laughter. Jake walked toward the door, his team behind him. As they reached the exit, he turned back for one final look at the Galaxy Council. They were still laughing, still amused by what they saw as a childish outburst from a primitive species. "Goodbye," Jake said simply, and walked out into the corridor. Behind them, the laughter continued, echoing off the polished walls of the council chambers. The aliens were so busy being amused by humanity's tantrum that none of them noticed the cold, determined expression on Jake Thompson's face as the door slid, shut behind him. They had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Commander Alex Parker stared at the star map displayed on his ship's main screen. Red dots marked human ships scattered across dozens of star systems. 3 weeks ago, when Ambassador Jake Thompson had walked out of the peace talks, Alex had expected humanity to retreat back to Earth and lick their wounds. Instead, the opposite had happened. "Sir, we have another report coming in from the Wanderer fleet," his communications officer said. "Captain Foster's merchant ships have completed another trade agreement. That makes 7 new contracts this week." Alex nodded, still amazed by what he was seeing. While Jake had been sitting through those boring meetings on Nexus Prime, hundreds of human ships had been quietly exploring the galaxy. They had found things the Galaxy Council had missed or simply ignored. The door to the bridge opened and Dr. Kevin Walsh walked in, his clothes still dirty from his latest trip to the Arbor and Tree Cities. Kevin had spent the last 2 months living with the plant-like aliens, learning their ways and sharing human knowledge about farming and medicine. "The Arborans want to sign a formal friendship treaty," Kevin announced, grinning widely. "They said our crop rotation techniques have doubled their food production. They're calling it a miracle." Alex smiled back. The Arborans were peaceful tree-dwelling aliens who the Galaxy Council barely acknowledged. They lived in beautiful cities built around massive trees, growing their food in harmony with nature. The Council saw them as primitive because they did not build metal cities or huge factories. But Kevin had discovered that the Arborans were actually brilliant botanists and geneticists. They could create plants that grew in any environment, including the harsh conditions on human colony worlds. In return for sharing human agricultural science, they had given humanity the locations of dozens of uninhabited star systems, rich in rare minerals. "What else did they tell you?" Alex asked. Kevin pulled out a data pad and scrolled through his notes. "They know about 47 different species that the Council ignores. Most of them are small groups who don't have big militaries or vast territories. The Council thinks they're not worth bothering with." Alex felt a familiar surge of anger. The Galaxy Council only paid attention to species that could either serve them or threaten them. Everyone else was left alone to struggle on their own. His communication officer spoke up again. "Sir, we're getting a priority message from Captain Martinez. She's in the depth swimmer home system." The main screen flickered and showed Lisa Martinez's face. Behind her, Alex could see the bridge of her ship, water droplets floating in the air from her recent meeting with the aquatic aliens. "Alex, you need to hear this," Lisa said, her voice tight with controlled anger. The depth swimmers have been paying tribute to the Galaxy Council for over 200 years. 20% of everything they produce goes to the Council as protection fees. Alex frowned. Protection from what? That's what I asked. Turns out there's nothing to protect them from. The Council just takes their stuff because they can. The depth swimmers have been too scared to refuse because they thought the Council would destroy them. The camera angle shifted to show one of the depth swimmers floating in a tank of water. The alien looked like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus with intelligent eyes and graceful tentacles. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computer into clear English. Your Captain Martinez has shown us that the galaxy is much larger than we knew, the alien said. We had believed the Council when they told us we were alone except for them. Learning that there are many free species gives us hope. Lisa's face came back on screen. They want to join our trade network. They're offering their biotechnology in exchange for protection from Council retaliation. Alex, their medical knowledge is incredible. They can regrow lost limbs and cure diseases that our best doctors can't even identify. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The Galaxy Council had been lying to these people for centuries, keeping them isolated and afraid so they could steal their resources. How many other species were trapped in similar situations? His thoughts were interrupted by another incoming message. This time it was Lieutenant Ben Harris calling from the Outer Rim territories. Commander Parker, we've made contact with the energy beings called the Lumina, Ben reported. They've been hiding from the Council for decades because the Council wanted to capture them and use them as living power sources for their ships. The screen showed strange, beautiful creatures that looked like living stars, glowing with soft light and floating freely in space. They moved in complex patterns that reminded Alex of a dance. They're incredibly advanced, Ben continued. They can manipulate gravity and energy in ways we can barely understand. But they're also afraid. They've been living in hidden asteroids and dead star systems to avoid Council hunting parties. One of the Lumina spoke, its voice like musical chimes. The humans are the first species to approach us as equals rather than resources to be harvested. We are willing to share our knowledge with those who respect our freedom. Alex leaned back in his captain's chair, his mind racing. In just 3 weeks, humanity had made contact with more new species than the Galaxy Council had acknowledged in decades. And every single one of these species had stories of Council abuse, neglect, or exploitation. His communication officer looked up from her console. Sir, we're receiving requests for meetings from 12 more species. Word is spreading fast through the independent networks. The independent networks? Alex asked. Apparently there's been an underground communication system running for years, she explained. All the species the Council ignores or mistreats have been secretly talking to each other. They've been waiting for someone strong enough to stand up to the Council. Dr. Kevin Walsh whistled softly. And they think we're that someone. Alex looked at the star map again. The red dots representing human ships were no longer scattered randomly across space. They formed a network, connecting dozens of worlds and species in a web of friendship and mutual support. While the Galaxy Council had been laughing at humanity's tantrum, humans had been building something new. His communication officer spoke up once more. Sir, we have another message coming in. This one's from Admiral Taylor herself. Admiral? Susan Taylor appeared on the screen, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and her uniform perfectly pressed. Behind her, Alex could see the bridge of humanity's largest warship. All human commanders, listen carefully, Admiral Taylor said. I've just received formal requests for protection agreements from 17 different species. They're asking us to defend them against Council retaliation for joining our trade network. She paused, her expression serious. The Galaxy Council spent 3 months trying to make us their servants. Instead, they've made us the leaders of the largest alliance this galaxy has ever seen. Every species they've ignored or abused is looking to us for hope. Alex felt a surge of pride mixed with responsibility. Humanity had left those peace talks with nothing but their dignity. 3 weeks later, they had dozens of allies and a growing network of friends across the galaxy. What are your orders, Admiral? Alex asked. Admiral Taylor's stern expression cracked into a small smile. "Keep doing what you're doing, Commander. Keep treating people with respect and fairness. The Galaxy Council is about to learn that there's more than one way to build an empire." The transmission ended, leaving Alex staring at the star map once more. The red dots had become something beautiful, a constellation of hope spreading across the darkness of space. And at the center of it all was humanity, not as conquerors but as friends. The Galaxy Council thought they had rejected humanity. Instead, they had set them free. General Krikstal stood before the Galaxy Council's emergency session, his scaled hands trembling as he held the intelligence report. The massive lizard chairman leaned forward in his throne-like seat, his yellow eyes glowing with anger and confusion. "Explain this to me again," the chairman hissed. "How exactly have the humans managed to spread across 47 star systems in just 6 months?" Krikstal cleared his throat nervously. He had been the Council's top military intelligence officer for over 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, it appears that while Ambassador Thompson was attending our negotiations, human exploration fleets were already mapping hyperspace routes throughout the outer sectors." The insect delegate clicked its mandibles in agitation. "That is impossible. Our scouts would have detected such activity." "That's what we thought," Krikstal replied, pulling up a holographic display. "But the humans were not exploring the main trade routes. They found paths through dead systems and asteroid fields that we had dismissed as worthless. They've been using these hidden routes to move freely throughout the galaxy." Counselor Vexthan's blue eyes flickered with something that might have been respect, though his voice remained cold. "Clever. But surely their little trade network cannot be profitable. What could those primitive species possibly offer?" Krikstal winced. This was the part of his report that would make the Council truly angry. "Sir, the Zephyrian Commercial Guild has reported losing 30% of their revenue in the past 4 months. Their customers are switching to human suppliers." The chrome-colored, crystalline Empire representative made a sound like breaking glass. "Impossible. Our manufacturing capabilities are centuries ahead of human technology. The humans are not competing on technology alone," Krikstal explained. "They offer fair prices, honest dealing, and they treat all species as equals. Many of our client species have never experienced such treatment before." The chairman's claws scraped against his armrest. "Client species? You mean our vassals? The species under our protection?" Krikstal nodded reluctantly. "Yes, sir. 3 of Counselor Vexthan's tributary worlds have formally requested release from their obligations. They want to join something called the Human Commonwealth." Vexthan shot up from his seat, his gray skin flushing darker with rage. "My vassals would never dare betray me. I have protected them for decades." "Protected them from what?" Krikstal asked quietly, then immediately regretted speaking, but the question hung in the air like a challenge. The truth was that most of the Galaxy Council's protection consisted of taking resources from weaker species while doing very little to actually defend them. The Council had grown fat and lazy, over the centuries used to being obeyed without question. "What about their military capabilities?" the chairman demanded. "Surely these humans cannot pose a real threat to our forces." Krikstal's expression grew even more troubled. "Sir, that's perhaps the most concerning part of the report. Human military technology has advanced rapidly through cooperation with their new allies. The Lumina energy beings have shared gravity manipulation techniques. The depth swimmers have provided biotechnology that enhances human reflexes and healing. The resonant crystals have improved their communication systems beyond anything we possess." He pulled up another display showing footage from the Rim territories. Last week, a human task force led by Admiral Rodriguez encountered the Scarlet Corsairs. This pirate fleet has been raiding our shipping lanes for over 10 years. We declared them too dangerous to engage directly. The council members leaned forward to watch the recorded battle. What they saw made several of them gasp in shock. The human ships moved like dancers, using gravity fields to dodge incoming fire, while their weapons struck with surgical precision. The entire pirate fleet was disabled in less than an hour with minimal damage to the human vessels. How is this possible? The insect delegate chittered in distress. The Scarlet Corsairs had over 50 ships. The humans used coordinated tactics we've never seen before, Kriegstall explained. They fought as a single unit, each ship supporting the others. Their weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy, and they offered the pirates a chance to surrender and start new lives as honest traders. Vexthon snorted. Typical human weakness. They should have destroyed them all. Actually, sir, that may have been their greatest strength, Kriegstall said carefully. Word of their mercy has spread throughout the pirate communities. Several other Corsair fleets have approached human representatives asking to negotiate surrender terms. The humans are turning our enemies into their allies. The chairman's tail lashed back and forth, a sure sign of extreme agitation. What about our own military? Surely our fleets can handle these upstart humans. Kriegstall hesitated. This was the part of his report he had been dreading most. Sir, we've had several incidents. Last month, a council patrol squadron encountered a single human destroyer in the neutral zone. The human captain requested that our ships leave the area. And, the chairman prompted, our squadron commander refused and ordered the human ship to surrender for inspection. The human vessel used some kind of gravity field to hold our entire squadron motionless. They couldn't move, couldn't fire their weapons, couldn't even send distress signals. The human captain kept them frozen in space for 6 hours before releasing them with a polite message to, "Please respect neutral territory in the future." The council chamber fell silent. The idea that a single human ship could disable an entire council squadron was almost impossible to believe. The Crystalline Empire representative finally spoke, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. What is the morale situation in our own forces? Kriegstall's shoulders slumped. Not good, sir. Word has spread throughout our military that the humans possess superior technology and tactics. Many of our ship captains are requesting transfers to safe sectors far from human space. Some have even asked to retire early. Cowards. Vexithon spat. Can you blame them? Kriegstall asked quietly. They've seen the footage. They know they're outmatched, and unlike us, they've heard the stories of how humans treat their opponents. The humans offer honor, respect, and fair treatment even to their enemies. Many of our soldiers are beginning to ask why they're fighting for leaders who show them only fear and contempt. The chairman stood up slowly, his massive frame casting a shadow over the council table. What are you suggesting, General? Kriegstall took a deep breath. Sir, in 6 months, the humans have built an alliance that spans nearly a quarter of the galaxy. They've turned our enemies into friends, our vassals into willing partners, and our own forces into reluctant opponents. They've done all of this without conquering a single world or forcing anyone to join them. He paused, looking around at the alien faces surrounding him. Meanwhile, we're losing territory, revenue, and respect every day. Half our client species are in open rebellion, our military is demoralized, and our economy is collapsing as trade flows toward human networks. What do you recommend? The chairman asked, though his tone suggested he already feared the answer. I recommend we consider the possibility that we made a serious mistake when we dismissed the humans as a primitive species, Kriegstall said. They may be newer to space travel than us, but they understand something we've forgotten. Which is? How to make friends instead of just taking what they want by force. How to build alliances based on mutual respect instead of fear. How to lead by example instead of through intimidation. The council chamber fell silent again. Outside the great windows, the lights of Nexus Prime twinkled like stars. But inside, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in darkness, finally, beginning to understand the magnitude of their error. They had treated humanity like children who needed to be taught their place. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that was reshaping the galaxy through the simple revolutionary concept of treating others with kindness and respect. And now that giant was growing stronger every day while the Galaxy Council grew weaker, isolated by their own arrogance and cruelty. Commander Tony Lewis almost dropped his coffee cup when the decoded message appeared on his screen. He read it 3 times before he truly believed what he was seeing. The Galaxy Council was planning to attack human colonies within the next 2 weeks. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," his communications officer called out from across the bridge. Tony was already moving toward her station. "What is it, Sarah?" Petty Officer Sarah Kim pointed at her screen, her face pale with shock. "I've been monitoring Council military frequencies like you ordered. They think their communications are secure, but our new decoding systems from the resonant crystals can break their encryption." The message was clear and terrifying. The Council had decided that the human Commonwealth was too dangerous to be allowed to continue growing. They were planning what they called a correction operation, surprise attacks on 3 major human colonies that would cripple humanity's ability to support their allies. Tony felt his blood turn to ice. The Council was planning to kill millions of innocent people just to maintain their power. He grabbed the nearest communication device and opened a channel to every human ship and colony in the network. "This is Commander Lewis with an emergency broadcast. The Galaxy Council is planning unprovoked attacks on our colonies. All human forces are to share this intelligence immediately with every member of the Commonwealth. The Council has chosen war." Within hours, the intercepted Council communications were being broadcast across 47 star systems. Every species in the human Commonwealth learned that the Galaxy Council planned to crush them before they could become too strong to defeat. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The resonant crystals, whose harmonic technologies kept the Council's communication networks running, immediately shut down all their equipment. Across Council space, communication systems went dark as the crystal beings withdrew their support and joined the human Commonwealth. On the ocean world of Tidal, Prime, the depth swimmers formally declared independence from the Galaxy Council. Admiral Patricia Rodriguez's fleet arrived in orbit, just as Council ships appeared to restore order. The brief battle that followed became legendary throughout the galaxy. The Council ships expected an easy victory against primitive human vessels. Instead, they found themselves facing weapons and tactics they had never seen before. Human ships moved like schools of fish, working together with perfect coordination. Their gravity-based weapons could disable enemy vessels without destroying them, and their defensive fields made them nearly impossible to hit. But the most shocking moment came when the lead Council ship demanded the humans surrender before more of your kind die needlessly. Captain Nicole Grant responded by broadcasting her reply on all frequencies so every species in the galaxy could hear. "This is Captain Grant of the Human Commonwealth Navy. We did not start this fight, but we will finish it. Any Council ship that leaves this system immediately will be allowed to go in peace. Any ship that continues to threaten our friends will be disabled, and its crew treated with the respect and dignity that the Council has never shown to others." The psychological impact of those words rippled across both fleets. Here was humanity, facing overwhelming odds, still offering mercy to their enemies. Several Council ship captains decided on the spot that they were fighting for the wrong side. The battle ended with the entire Council task force either disabled or in retreat. Not a single human was killed, and the Council casualties were minimal, because human weapons were designed to save lives rather than take them. News of the victory spread like wildfire. Within days, 17 more star systems requested to join the human Commonwealth. The cascade of defections left the Galaxy Council reeling, but the real blow came from an unexpected source. The peaceful Wanderer clans, who had remained neutral for over 1,000 years, formally recognized the human Commonwealth and offered their support. The Wanderers controlled the most advanced navigation technology in the galaxy, and their knowledge of deep space routes was unmatched. Elder Marcus of the Wanderer fleet sent a message that was broadcast throughout the galaxy. "For centuries we have watched empires rise and fall. We have seen species conquer and destroy in their hunger for power. But never have we seen a people who grow strong by lifting others up rather than tearing them down. The humans have shown us something new under the stars, the power of kindness." The message was accompanied by detailed star charts showing previously unknown hyperspace routes that could cut travel time across the galaxy by half. The Wanderers were giving humanity and their allies access to the most valuable navigation data in existence. Admiral Steve Murphy received the navigation data aboard his flagship and immediately understood its significance. These routes would allow the human Commonwealth to move ships and supplies across vast distances in record time. More importantly, they would allow human forces to be anywhere in the galaxy within days instead of weeks. But Murphy also understood the deeper meaning of the gift. The Wanderers were not just sharing their knowledge, they were choosing sides. The most respected neutral power in the galaxy had looked at both the Council and the Commonwealth and decided that humanity represented the future. The political impact was devastating for the Council. If the wise and ancient Wanderers trusted humanity over the established galactic government, what did that say about the Council's legitimacy? The answer came in the form of mass defections. The aquatic depth swimmers brought their biotechnology exclusively to human allies. The energy-based Lumina shared their gravitational manipulation techniques only with Commonwealth members. The tree-dwelling Arborans opened their vast botanical knowledge to anyone willing to treat them as equals, rather than subjects. Most damaging of all was the rebellion of the resonant crystals. These beings had provided the harmonic technology that held the Council's civilization together. Without their cooperation, Council infrastructure began to collapse. Communication networks failed, transportation systems broke down, and even basic life support on many Council worlds became unreliable. Captain Danny Morrison, humanity's chief engineering officer, found himself working around the clock to help former Council worlds maintain their essential systems. But he only helped those planets that formally requested assistance and agreed to treat all species as equals. "We're not trying to build an empire," Danny explained to a group of desperate Council officials who had come begging for technical support. "We're trying to build a community. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome, but you have to leave your old ways of thinking behind." Some Council worlds swallowed their pride and joined the Commonwealth. Others tried to maintain their independence but found themselves increasingly isolated as their former subjects and allies switched sides. The final nail in the Council's coffin came when their own military began to fragment. Faced with superior human technology and tactics, many Council officers started questioning why they were fighting. When they learned that humans offered honorable treatment even to their enemies, while the Council demanded absolute obedience through fear, the choice became clear. Entire Council fleets began defecting to the human Commonwealth, not through force or bribery, but because their crews had decided they would rather serve alongside humans who treated them with respect than under Council leaders who saw them as expendable tools. General Krikstal found himself commanding a military that was melting away like ice in the sun. His best officers were requesting transfers to Commonwealth service. His supply lines were controlled by former Council vassals who now sided with humanity. His communication systems depended on resonant crystal technology that was no longer available. In his final report to the Council, Krikstal wrote, "We have lost this war not because we lack ships or weapons, but because we lack something the humans have in abundance. The loyalty that comes from treating others well. Our subjects serve us out of fear, but humans inspire service through respect. Fear may work for a while, but respect lasts forever." The Galaxy Council that had laughed at humanity's tantrum 18 months earlier now sat in mostly empty chambers, watching their 1,000-year empire crumble not through conquest, but through the revolutionary idea that all species deserve to be treated with dignity. The humans had not fired the first shot in this war, but they were clearly going to have the final word. The massive Galaxy Council chambers felt empty and cold. Where once hundreds of delegates had filled the gleaming seats, now only a handful remained. The lizard chairman sat hunched in his throne, looking much older than his 800 years. His yellow eyes were dim, and his once proud scales had lost their shine. Councillor Vexthan paced nervously near the great windows, his gray skin almost white with stress. 3 of his most profitable worlds had joined the human Commonwealth last week. His personal fleet had been reduced to a single ship after his crews defected to serve under human commanders who actually cared about their welfare. The insect delegate sat motionless in its chair, its compound eyes reflecting the empty chamber. The Crystalline Empire representative had not spoken in days, making only the occasional sound like breaking glass that everyone knew meant despair. General Krixtal entered the chamber carrying his final military report. His proud uniform was wrinkled and his shoulders sagged with the weight of complete defeat. He had lost 90% of his forces not to enemy fire, but to defection. His own soldiers had chosen to serve humanity rather than continue fighting for leaders who treated them like tools. The situation? The chairman asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer would be terrible. We control 17 star systems, Krixtal reported quietly. Down from over 300 just 18 months ago. Our military consists of 47 ships, most of them with skeleton crews. Our economy has collapsed entirely since the resonant crystals cut off our communication networks. He paused, looking around at the nearly empty chamber. Sir, we are no longer a government. We are barely a functioning organization. The chairman closed his eyes. Outside the windows, the lights of Nexus Prime flickered weakly. Even the capital world was struggling to maintain basic services without the technology and resources that their former subjects had provided. What about our remaining allies? Vexthon asked desperately. Krixtal shook his head. The few species still loyal to us are only staying because they fear human retaliation. But even they are sending secret messages to the Commonwealth, asking about terms for peaceful surrender. A new voice spoke from the chamber's entrance. Perhaps it is time to consider that we are the ones who should be asking for terms. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Jake Thompson walking slowly down the aisle, flanked by Captain Lisa Martinez and Admiral Susan Taylor. The humans looked confident but not arrogant, strong but not cruel. Behind them came representatives from dozens of Commonwealth species, depth swimmers in mobile water tanks, glowing Lumina energy beings, crystal-formed resonants, and tree-like arborans. The chairman struggled to his feet. How did you get past our security? Jake smiled sadly. Your security forces asked us to come in. They wanted to make sure we understood they were not trying to stop us, just doing their jobs. Very polite people, actually. We invited them to visit our worlds anytime they wanted to see how a military should be treated. Admiral Taylor stepped forward, her gray hair gleaming under the chamber's lights. 18 months ago, you laughed when we walked out of your peace talks. You called it a tantrum from a primitive species. Today, we control or protect over 200 star systems, while you can barely keep the lights on in your own capital. The insect delegate made a clicking sound that everyone recognized as bitter laughter. So you have come to gloat over your victory? Captain Martinez shook her head. We've come because President Mary Collins sent us with a message. The human Commonwealth does not seek revenge or domination. We never wanted to destroy the Galaxy Council. We just wanted to be treated with respect. She gestured to the alien representatives behind her. Every species here has a story of how the Council failed them. The depth swimmers paid tribute for centuries while you offered them nothing in return. The Arborans were ignored because you thought their peaceful ways made them worthless. The resonant crystals were treated like living tools instead of intelligent beings. Jake took a step forward. But we also know that many individual council members were good people trapped in a bad system. General Krixtal, for example, has a reputation for treating his soldiers well and protecting civilian populations. We respect that. Krixtal looked surprised. He had expected the humans to demand his arrest or execution, not offer him praise. What are you proposing? The chairman asked quietly. Admiral Taylor activated a holographic projector that showed a map of the galaxy. Red areas marked the shrinking council territory, while blue showed the expanding Commonwealth. But there were also green zones scattered throughout space. We propose a new galactic order, she explained. The human Commonwealth will guarantee the freedom and independence of any species that wants it. We will protect trade routes, mediate disputes, and share technology with anyone willing to treat others fairly. She pointed to the green zones. These are neutral territories where species can choose their own path without interference from anyone. No tribute, no forced alliances, no vassal states, just freedom. Vexthon stepped forward, his blue eyes flickering with desperate hope. And what about us? What about the council? Jake looked directly at him. That depends entirely on you. If you're willing to give up the old ways of force and domination, there's a place for you in the new galaxy. Many former council species have already joined us and are thriving. But if we don't? The chairman asked. Then you're free to continue as you are, Jake replied. But understand that we will protect any species that asks for our help. We will not attack you, but we will not allow you to attack others either. The chamber fell silent. The council members looked at each other, seeing the same truth reflected in every face. They had no real choice. Their empire was gone, their military defeated, their economy ruined. They could either join the new order as equals or fade into irrelevance as a tiny rump state. The chairman slowly walked to the center of the chamber. His claws clicked against the floor with each step, the sound echoing in the vast empty space. When he reached the middle, he stopped and looked up at the cameras that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice heavy with shame and regret. Today, the Galaxy Council formally acknowledges our grave error in judgment regarding the human species and their allies. He paused, struggling with words that went against everything he had believed for centuries. We failed to recognize humanity's potential. We dismissed their worth and underestimated their capacity for both innovation and friendship. In our arrogance, we treated equals as inferiors and friends as enemies. The admission continued, each word seeming to age him further. Humanity has demonstrated superior diplomatic, technological, and military capabilities while maintaining principles of equality and mutual respect that we had forgotten. They have built an alliance based on trust rather than fear, cooperation rather than domination. His voice grew stronger as he spoke, as if admitting the truth was lifting a great weight from his shoulders. The humans have shown us that true strength comes not from controlling others, but from inspiring them. Not from taking what you want by force, but from earning what you need through friendship. He looked directly at Jake Thompson. The Galaxy Council requests the opportunity to begin genuine negotiations with the human commonwealth. Not as superiors dictating to inferiors, but as equals seeking mutual benefit and a chance to learn from our mistakes. Jake nodded slowly. We accept your request for new talks, but they will be held on New Geneva, the Commonwealth capital. And this time, everyone comes to the table as equals. The chairman straightened his shoulders, looking more dignified than he had in months. We understand, and we are grateful for the chance to start over. As the humans and their allies filed out of the chamber, the few remaining council members sat in silence. Outside, the lights of Nexus Prime grew brighter as Commonwealth engineers arrived to help restore the failing infrastructure. The galaxy watched as the species once dismissed as newcomers offered a hand to help rebuild the civilization that had rejected them. It was a lesson in grace that would be remembered for generations. In the end, the humans had won not through conquest, but through something far more powerful. The simple revolutionary idea that everyone deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. And in teaching that lesson to the galaxy, they had transformed not just the political order, but the very soul of galactic civilization. The age of empires built on fear and domination was over. The age of communities built on friendship and mutual respect had begun.